is, of course, the vision of our organization, the Federation of the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, to achieve economic prosperity for our country and fellow Filipinos through sustainable growth, particularly now amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. In this view, we have supported the economic reform agenda of the government to make the Philippines more globally competitive and promote ease of doing business here. To attract more foreign investment, we support the passage of the proposed amendment to the Public Service Act, which establishes a rate-setting mechanism that will result in the fair and reasonable price of the commodity or service, improved technology, and modernized service. It's likewise updated the penalties for those who violate laws and regulations to the detriment of consumers. The passage of this legislation will stimulate the provision of better services, the lifting of the restrictions on ownership and operation of public services in the country. Eventually, the better services will cascade to other parts of the economy, since these are necessary for businesses to thrive, improve access, and lower rates translate to a more conducive environment doing business in the country. Furthermore, the entry of foreign investors will translate to more jobs, which is what we need to help our fellow Filipinos recover from the pandemic. The influx of foreign direct investment, or the FDIs, has been on the upswing, and we believe that this legislation will be crucial to sustaining and further improving this favorable trend. All of Asia's most progressive economic success stories, from Singapore to Hong Kong to South Korea to China, Thailand, Malaysia to Vietnam, flourish with welcoming globally competitive foreign investment policies. In stark contrast, countries which were belligerent, protectionist, and anti-foreign investments in policies largely behind economically and technologically. Look at Macau. When the Portuguese colonizers left and returned this city to China, the Chinese communist leaders recognized the importance of globalization, of competition, and foreign investment. They broke up the casino monopoly, invited international foreign investors, and Macau prospered as never before. The amendments to PSA will help the Philippines attain or even surpass the levels of foreign investments received by our neighbors. The ASEAN Investment Report 2020 to 2021 of the ASEAN Secretariat and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development cited that the FDI inflows into ASEAN reached its highest entry level in 2019 at $182 billion, making ASEAN the largest recipient of FDI in the developing world. Due to the unprecedented impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the FDI inflows into ASEAN decreased to US $137 billion, from 182 billion to 137 billion in 2020. But compared to the decline of global FDI levels, ASEAN still performs slightly better. Investment within ASEAN remained resilient, increasing by 5% to 23 billion in 2020. Then again in November 2020, ASEAN and its 5 free trade agreement partners, Australia, China, Japan, South Korea, and New Zealand, signed the Regional Comprehensive and Economic Partnership, or RCEP, agreement, which will increase the inter-regional trade. And all of these present bright prospects and are expected to provide opportunities to ASEAN. Of course, for the Philippines and its partners, of course, the further also boost investment and enhance the development of business activities in this region. Presently, our other ASEAN neighbors have a bigger share of FDIs, but competition teaches us not to be complacent. As such, we call on our lawmakers to review and revise outdated laws in order to adapt the present day's realities. The amendment to the Public Service Act, which is part of President Duterte's legislative priorities, will make our foreign investment policies at par with our neighbors. We hope that the approval of this bill in the House and Senate will pave the way for its enactment into law. Again, thank you and a pleasant good morning to everybody.